Chin.
What is going on? Welcome back to the Reimagining Worship podcast. Yo, I'm your host, Trevor Chin. It is a privilege for me to be able to be here doing this, and it's an honor that you would listen or watch wherever you may be listening or watching from. Yo, we are in the middle of, Happy New Year once again. We're in the middle of this new season of developing your next worship leader. I said it in my previous episode. In this season, I've seen and have so many conversations with like, hey, Trev, man, I need a worship leader. Yo, I need a worship pastor. I need a music director. I need a creative director, like all these different things. And the reason why I'm doing this season like this is because we need to do the work of development, of investment. It might not be for tomorrow, but it'll be for one day. It'll be for the near future. Check out episode 1 if you haven't checked that out yet. But the biggest concept, the biggest idea around all of this is how to develop your next worship leader. We're not going to find them. We're going to develop them. Let's see what it looks like to invest. Reimagining Worship podcast is on online, reimaginingworship.org or trevorchin.com. Both of those will give you to my website. And on there, I have a bunch of trainings, a bunch of documents, a bunch of resources, guides, journals, like all that kind of stuff that's on there. And then, shameless plug, for $20 a month, you'll have an all access pass to all of the trainings that I do, past, present, and future. So all of these will be on there. But all the conferences that I've done in the past, we just did a Reimagining Worship conference in October. All that's on there. We did one in September. All that's on there. I'm doing one in January. All that will be on there. So just for $20, one-time fee for $20, you're gonna get an all access pass to get access to all of these trainings. Also, lastly, Healthy Creatives, that's my brand. That's my situation. These shirts will be available on the website next week, 10 days from now, from today, whatever the case may be. So check all that out. But if you're new here or newer here to Reimagining Worship, the mission of Reimagining Worship is to foster an environment that inspires and empowers creatives within the church, celebrating their unique gifts and harnessing their talents to enhance worship experiences. We are committed to nurturing a community that values creativity as an expression of faith, fostering connection. So listen, thanks for being here. Once again, this season is developing your next worship leader. Part 1 was, and this is a real, the first episode was a little bit longer. Didn't expect it for it to be that long, but these are intended to be snippets and smaller bite-sized pieces of just some foundational stuff. Later on this quarter, this will be a fully developed course with extremely practical applications, but this is just more of a introductory course, if you will. It's about 10 parts, but these are some of the things that you need to think through, pray through, process through when you're thinking of developing your next worship leader. So last week, part 1 was deeply around just some of the grassroots stuff, from music to song selection to arrangement to mastering an instrument, vocal techniques, just the foundation of what it means to be a worship leader, what's needed to be a worship leader. This week, a lot of that stuff was a lot more practical, outworking stuff. For this week is going to be a little bit more internal, the spiritual component of being a worship leader. But this is the matters of the heart. Part 2 is matters of the heart, the essence of worship. And I just really want to just jump in. I don't want to spend too much time doing a whole bunch of other stuff, but like just really want to dive in. Boom. So the essence of worship, what it means to be a worship leader, to be spiritually prepared to be a worship leader, to lead churches or congregations or people in general in worship. The first big concept around here is personal devotion. The lifeblood of a worship leader is their personal devotion to God. Period. It's the practices, it's the rhythms, it's the time spent, and we're going to talk about some more practical things. But this is just a personal, intentional devotion to God. You cannot lead others if you yourself have not been led by the Spirit. Period. Point. Paragraph. But what does it look like for you to intentionally invest in your spiritual well-being as it pertains to being a worship leader? That's the first primary step of all this. Like, Sunday morning is not an expression of what we've practiced; it's an overflow of our heart. What does it look like for it to be an overflow of our heart? That means we've sat in this music. We've prayed through this music. We've found Bible verses to coincide with this music. We've soaked in a lot of these times. We've spent time with the Lord. We've spent time in those quiet times. Like we've done the necessary internal work to be able to prepare ourselves not only to lead in our rehearsals throughout the week, but also to lead on Sunday morning. So the first really, really big piece, this is going to be a quick podcast, but the first really big piece is personal devotion, prayer, scripture reading, meditation, and how all of these practices prepare you for leading worship. One of the big aspects around that is what does your spiritual disciplines look like? I was having a conversation with one of the worship leaders in my church yesterday, and the conversation really was around like what do spiritual disciplines look like for you? When's the last time you fasted from something that you enjoy? When's the last time you spent time abstaining from food or whatever liberties that there might be, like, and replace those with time of personal devotion? What does prayer look like for you? A big one that I think we miss oftentimes in our culture and our context, just because life moves so fast, is what does silence and solitude look like for you? What happens in the quiet moments of your hearts? What preparation have you made for that? What time have you allotted or set aside for that? Just to mentally quiet yourself, to quiet things around you, to silence and quiet your mind and your heart, and just to be prepared to receive. A little bit of reading, a little bit of time. What does that look like? What does community look like for you? Have you spent the time of developing community and communal practices of even the Acts 2 piece of like the breaking bread, the Colossians, the singing spiritual songs and hymns? What does it look like to pray? What does your prayer life look like? What do your rhythms, your regular daily rhythms look like? Do they include the Lord? Do they include Jesus? So some of these spiritual practices are super, super important as it comes to the spiritual depth and integrity of the worship leader. Now, spiritual depth is important because this is a spiritual battle that we're fighting. We don't battle against flesh and blood, but this is a spiritual battle, and it's always something happening. And and for those who have been leading for a while, know and understand and can attest, like week after week, like when things are going well, things are also difficult. Like battles come, issues come, difficulties come, and I said in the last episode, but I'll recommunicate this. That's the reason why I think it's really important to have authentic worship moments during rehearsal, because oftentimes Sunday morning this is a lot going on. You didn't try to rush out the house, get the kids out the house, get the spouse out the house, make sure that stuff is right, make sure I got my in-ears in my pocket, make sure that I'm getting there on time. Did I get enough breakfast? Did I drink enough water the night before? Do I really know this music? Is the music on iTunes, YouTube, or GroupMe, or what? Like, there's so much that happens on Sundays in preparation for this. What does it look like to just really spend time with the team of like worship and prayer and no timekeeper and all that kind of stuff? Like, what does that look like? Because when it comes time to communicate verbally, to exhort, to encourage, to pick songs, there's a necessity of a spiritual depth that is there. We like I said earlier, we communicate from the overflow of our heart. But if our heart is empty and our heart hasn't been filled, the communication is dry and it falls on flat ears. What has the Lord been telling you this week? How has the Lord been encouraging you this week? What are some things that you've been studying and praying and processing through this week? All those are ways to be able to shepherd and care and all that kind of stuff. But it has to start inside. It has to start with you. Another big one. Oh boy, another big one. And this is a big one. And I honestly, especially as it pertains to musicians, I think this is one of the aspects or one of the topics that is like so heavily looked over, is character and integrity. Character and integrity. Leadership on the stage begins with who you are off the stage. Leadership on stage begins with who you are off stage. Who are you? Are you qualified to be in the space that you're in? And you're qualified to do, like, character is so important. And I wish that more people would spend a little bit less time song selection and a little bit more time in developing some character and integrity. And as leaders, is our responsibility to communicate holiness. Like, I'll go off on a tangent just briefly, but like, I think that the church as a whole has replaced character and integrity with talent and giftedness. And now everything is wild, everybody running amok, and there isn't consistency in character across the stage. I promise you, this is one of the most important things as it pertains to this. Who you are here is who you are on Friday, Saturday, out and about, all that kind of stuff. So that's another really, really big point. But character and integrity are extremely important. And then for leaders who are encouraging or developing your next worship leader, like, character and integrity are a few things that you need to really push and communicate through. What do your regular practices, forget spiritual practice, what are your regular practice? What do your life rhythms look like? Are they healthy? Are they intentional? Are they strategic? So that's another big one. Another really big one is another big one that sometimes glossed over because it can go in a good way and a bad way, is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence. A worship leader must navigate not just their own emotions, but also sense and respond to the emotions of the congregation. I communicated this again in my last episode, but the importance of shepherding and stewarding the moment, the emotional moments well. Steward the emotional moments well. You must be able to steward your own emotions. Sunday morning isn't necessarily the time for you just to have a 45-minute intimate individual worship moment on stage in front of people. That's not what it means to be a lead worshiper, because our job is to be leading other people as well, shepherding other people through these worship moments. So be emotional, just have enough emotional intelligence enough to be able to know when to not be distracting. Oftentimes, and again, listen, the fallout cry, I love it. I love it all. I promise you I do. But depending on the setting, depending on the context, depending on the placement, even within the song, that can be a distraction. That could be a distraction, especially for non-believers who are new to Jesus or first time joining a church. What does that emotional intelligence look like as you shepherd and steward through those emotional moments? But that's that one. Another thing, overcoming personal challenges. The worship leader must be able to navigate overcoming personal challenges. Leading worship is a challenge, and it's rewarding. Burnout happens. How do you overcome those personal challenges? Difficulties at home, argument with your spouse, frustration with your kids, financial constraints, COVID season, 37 services on Christmas and 29 on Easter. How do you navigate through some of this stuff? And I want to, even just by way of encouragement, like, you'll find a coach, find a leader, find a pastor, find a mentor that can help you navigate through a lot of this stuff. For the leader who is listening to this to help develop your next worship leader, be that person for them. Help them navigate through difficult things, because difficulties in life will come. Difficulties in life will come, but take heart. Jesus has overcome the world. Like there is a baseline, but how do you practically, spiritually, with integrity, with character, in community, in accountability, navigate through those personal challenges? Criticism. Um, it was too loud on Sunday. Didn't like that song. Don't think that y'all know what y'all do. Whatever the criticism is, what does it look like to navigate through those personal challenges? And the last one, and I said it was going to be short. This is going to be a short but a sweet one. But encountering God in worship. The pinnacle of a worship leader's personal journey is encountering God in the midst of worship. Encountering God in the midst of worship. This is where you display your personal relationship, your personal devotion with God, and it's displayed on stage as you lead. There's so many things happening on stage when you're leading in a service or on a Sunday morning. You're navigating for musicians. If you're playing and singing, you're navigating the chords that you're playing. You're navigating the songs that's being sung. You're thinking through what the next chord is and thinking what the next line is. No, there's confidence monitor, yes, but you're thinking through all of that. You're watching the room to see who's engaged and how you can better help them get engaged. That's a very important one, by the way. Like helping the church sing, helping the church join in worship. There's super practical things that you can do. Break the music. Hey, I want to hear y'all sing this with me. Sing this with me. Yo, break the music. Hey, listen, we're going to sing this chorus until y'all understand it. Hey, this is a new song. Check this part out. Let me get some help with this. Let me hear y'all say, this is the day that the Lord, whatever the case may be. But neither here nor there. Encountering God, then you're thinking through how to lead the rest of the band, how to lead the rest of the vocalists, who's singing the alto, the soprano, and a tenor note. There's so many things that's happening on Sunday morning. So it's important to don't lose sight of your personal time with God. That's why I say like the practice time, development time before rehearsal and even before Sunday is super important, because when you get on stage, the chords need to be secondary, like in the back, like on the back of your hands. The lyrics need to be deep in your heart. Like you need to be able to communicate and sing and play without any thought and even connection with that. So you can lead congregation, you can lead the people that's with you, and you can still have that intimate relationship, the intimate devotion one-on-one. So again, like I said, this week was going to be a shorter one, but the spiritual component, the spiritual nature, the internal work that is necessary to be able to lead week to week is super important. Listen, burnout's going to happen. Frustration is going to happen. Losing sight of stuff is going to happen. Hopelessness is going to happen. Transition is going to happen. Frustration is going to come. But learning how to navigate through all of those spaces, while holding character, while holding your integrity, while keeping Jesus first, while continuing to press in even when things get difficult. All these are super, super, super important parts as it pertains to leading week to week. So hope that was helpful. Like I said, these are meant to be bite-sized introductory pieces. For more information, you can check out trevorchin.com or reimaginingworship.org. Both of them will take you to the same place. It is what it is. But consider checking that out. Consider investing and sowing into the ministry by getting your own $20 one-time, $20 all-access pass to get all the trainings and resources and everything. There's a bunch of free stuff on there as well. But check all that stuff out. And thanks for watching once again the Reimagining Worship podcast.
Teaching.